when I talked about, again, the visibility, right? How much of your environment can you see? We are collecting from your network, your cloud services, endpoints that you have, EDR services you might have, remote access. So things like gateways, VPNs, SD-WAN, et cetera. Your employees. So we can look at Azure, right? So we can see the users and the groups, all of the security nodes that you have, firewalls, whatever they might be, UTMs, and then of course your system logs as well. So we can pull all of that information. We do all of that through native APIs. We have nearly 200 APIs that are pulling from those services. And we also have a syslog collector, so we can also pull those. All of that information comes in and is enhanced. And we do that in two ways. First, we include dark web monitoring. So we're looking at things like critical docs, critical accounts, credentials, et cetera. So we're just monitoring for those to see if we spot them in markets, dark markets. Now, on top of that, we have a dedicated threat research team. And I love our threat research team because the manager of that team, the director, he came from the NSA, and he is I don't know if this is, I'm going to age myself here, but the old movie War Games with Matthew Broderick, where he hacks into like the nuclear command system. He didn't quite go that far, but he hacked into his school environment. And in his K-12 district, they caught him and they kind of went, look, you're a bit of a genius. Nobody wants to see you in prison. Let's put you in the military. So they got him, put him in a special program. He graduated. He went to, went through military college, and then he ended up in the NSA. He has spent his life in the dark corners of the world that you and I don't want to see. And so he and his team are both pulling in generic threat feeds. So, subscriber feeds from the government and other proprietary sources, but they're also going out and doing their own research. They're in those environments, those chat rooms, those, like I say, dark corners of the markets of the world that we don't know exist. And they're taking all of that information and they're combining it with what we're pulling from that step one collection sources. So part of that is, well, hey, if now I understand what bad guys are doing here. I see this sort of collection of tactics they might use. Can I find that pattern in what's happening? But then that information also informs the third stage of detection. So they work with our data science engineers to help them say, here's what we see. Here's what we need to do about it. How do you do it? Like, how could you detect that? So they build out, like I said, we have about 20 now different machine learning based algorithms that specifically look for what I would call the choke points of attacks. And then we also provide compliance insights that come out of it. And then we're hunting, right? So this is what our SOC is doing. They are looking for those threats. So they're not just taking alerts and detections, but they're proactively kind of going through the environment, looking for those inferential signs that something's wrong. And when they find them, they investigate. And then we get to the step 5, or the contain, right? Where we get into the red part. This is where it gets really critical. We've found something bad. They will respond within 15 seconds. They're investigating. Within 15 minutes, they have resolved it. So their job is to go through that, to contain it in the multiple different ways that I talked about. We can do that across accounts. So, anything like a password reset to disabling. We can do that across devices as well. So endpoints. We can also do it on threads. And that's important, on processes. And that's important because if I go back to that example of, say, a medical imaging suite, if I shut down that endpoint, you lose the services that are running or depend upon it. But if I can backtrack a ransomware attack to specific threads, then I can just kill those, right? I can kill those processes, and I've left the rest of the system running. So think of it like a surgery, right? I can take out the diseased part of the area of the body with a clean margin, and I can get rid of it, and I know it can't spread anymore. And then, of course, we can block cloud-based access to those services, and also any remote access like a VPN, et cetera. When all of that's done, we're going to be notifying you real time and generating tickets so that you can track this activity. But then we're going to remediate. So we can do some system patching, and we can set up new policies and rules. So once we find this stuff, remember I said sometimes that's a challenge for the customer, we can automatically do that. We can just push those new detection rules out to your customer services, so their firewall, whatever it might be. And then we're also, of course, as a byproduct of that is the full reporting. So you have the dashboard. You can see exactly what's going on. You can dive into any detection and see exactly why was this one closed as false positive versus why was this one investigated and contained. And all of the reporting just automatically flows out of that. All of this is real time. So any reporting, whatever you look at in the portal, in the dashboard, is exactly what's happening at that second. You are seeing it as the analyst does it. You might as well be standing over their shoulder as they're doing an investigation. So it gives you that, one, confidence that these attacks or these suspicious activities are being dealt with. But then two, like I said, you have the evidence afterwards to prove what I call duty of defense, or what an insurer would call that. So let's assume something did happen, or it's something reportable. or you just have to show activity over the year. You've got all of that automatically generated for your regulator. You can press print, and there it is as a PDF, or you can pull it in other formats. You can also, for an insurer, if there was something you wanted to do, like you did want to make a claim, and I don't think I've seen one yet, but if you did, you've got all the information you require. One, to show that you had the right security in place. Two, that you took action when you detected something and you did it rapidly to contain it. And here's the evidence, because those are the kind of things they're going to look for.